pause. The most fundamental rule of government was just broken by the Mayor of London. These days, he earns more than the British Prime Minister. It's true that the person in charge of bike lanes and buses makes more money than the person in charge of nuclear weapons. This is not only out of the ordinary, it is wrong. And what I'm about to reveal will make you reevaluate all you believe to be true about how your government spends your money. If you think this is ridiculous, click the subscribe button now, because we're going to take you on a speechless journey through government waste. There are deeper levels in this story than you may realize. These numbers ought to infuriate every taxpayer. London Mayor Sadiq Khan makes £170,882 annually. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, receives £169,344 annually. Give that time to sink in. The head of one city now makes £1,538 more than the head of the entire nation. This is what makes it even more ridiculous, though. Khan just agreed to a pay increase of 3.23%, which puts him above the Prime Minister's salary. For the average Londoner, this increase, which is approximately £5,400 annually, came at the worst possible time. While Khan was rejoicing over his pay rise, the average Londoner was facing the worst cost of living crisis in decades. The cost of rent has increased significantly beyond the means of the majority of people. Today, the average monthly rent for a one-bedroom flat in central London is higher than what most people earn in a year. Because groceries are now so expensive, many families skip meals. People are being forced to decide between feeding their children and heating their homes due to rising energy costs. And in the midst of this nightmare of living expenses, Khan felt it was just to give himself a promotion that put him above the head of state. It is astounding how much tone deafness there is. But hold on, this tale goes much deeper than the earnings of a single man. Khan has been employing at a rate that would make Silicon Valley companies envious, while you've been struggling to make ends meet. At present, City Hall employs a record 1,715 people. It's not a slight increase. They had 1,165 employees prior to COVID, which is a startling 47% increase. Think about that sum for a moment. Over the course of 3 years, Khan's workforce grew by about 550 employees. That's the same as hiring a whole new company's worth of workers, while the rest of the nation learnt how to do more with less. 90 of the 1,715 workers are agency workers. Let me now explain why this should infuriate you if you have never worked for the government or a large corporation. Usually, agency workers are at least twice as expensive as permanent employees. For jobs that ought to be permanent, you are paying more for short-term fixes. It's similar to your neighborhood hospital firing all of its physicians and then hiring expensive consultants to perform the same task for twice as much money. Unless you don't mind spending money, it doesn't make financial sense. Furthermore, whose funds are being squandered? It's yours. The cost of each and every one of these new hires is significantly higher than their base pay. We are discussing pensions, health insurance, office space, phones, computers, training, and all the other expenses that come with being employed by the government. We're looking at tens of millions of pounds in additional spending annually when you add almost 550 new employees to those expenses. Funds obtained directly from London taxpayers through various taxes, including congestion charges and council tax. However, this question will keep you up at night. What are these people doing exactly? Because as far as I can tell, London is not reaping the benefits of having 47% more government employees. The number of crimes is still rising. These days, knife attacks hardly make the news because they are so frequent. While Khan's army of 1,715 employees sits in air-conditioned offices, young people are being stabbed in the streets. Khan's top priority, the transport system, is failing. The tube delays don't change. Bus service is being reduced. As more people are hired to manage the infrastructure, it is crumbling. Not to mention housing. The housing crisis in London has gotten worse rather than better. Young people under Khan's leadership are unable to afford to live in the city where they work. Families are being driven from the communities in which their parents were raised. There are signs of homelessness everywhere you look. What do those 1,715 people do during the day? Because it's definitely not making London's problems go away. In the words of Emma Best, deputy leader of the Conservatives in City Hall, value for money is alien in Khan's City Hall. This goes beyond simple political critique. That is a factual statement backed up by data. However, the plot takes a much worse turn at this point. The British Prime Minister is legally entitled to a higher salary than Khan. Additional ministry allowances are available to Starmer, bringing his total income above the mayor's salary. However, he has chosen not to accept the additional funds. Read it once more. By refusing to accept money to which he is legally entitled, the leader of the entire nation is exhibiting financial prudence. In contrast, a city's mayor spends every penny he can. This leads to a moral analogy that ought to bring shame to Khan. The manager of London's bike-sharing program makes more money than the person in charge of Britain's economic policy, national defense, international relations, and nuclear weapons. What does this say about the priorities in our society? When did we decide that local politics were more important than leadership at the federal level? This is the cascading effect that everyone should be concerned about. What is stopping the other city leaders in Britain from asking for the same treatment if the mayor of London can earn more than the Prime Minister? Each of the mayors of Leeds, Manchester, Liverpool, and Birmingham could cite Khan's pay and declare, "We want the same." Will local politicians compete to earn the highest salary as their cities fall apart around them, creating a wage arms race? Because it drastically alters our understanding of political hierarchy, this precedent is detrimental. National leaders receive higher compensation than local leaders in every other nation on the planet. The reason for this is that managing a nation is more challenging, intricate, and demanding than managing a city, but not under Khan's rule in Britain. Let's move on to the topic of timing, which is what makes this whole situation so offensive to the average person. Khan's pay increase wasn't the only one that happened. At the time, he was urging Londoners to cut back on services and tighten their belts because of financial constraints. Previously open around the clock, police stations are now only open for a few hours every week. The closing of community centers is happening. There is a reduction in youth activities. Libraries are cutting back on their hours. The budget did, however, contain sufficient funds to give Khan a rise and bring on 550 new staff members. That is funny, isn't it? Does it not? It's the same as a restaurant owner telling customers that because money is tight, prices must go up and meals must get smaller, while hiring family members to assist in the kitchen and secretly giving himself a bonus. The hypocrisy is astounding. If that wasn't enough to make your head spin, Khan believed that the time had come to engage in combat with Donald Trump. Yes, Khan felt that his time was best spent making political remarks about American politics, even in the face of London's record-breaking crime rates, expensive housing, and congested transit system. According to him, a record number of Americans are applying for British citizenship as a result of Donald Trump's election. All right. However, what advantage does this offer to a single Londoner who is unable to pay their rent? How does that stop crimes involving knives? In what way does this fix the flawed tube system? Khan seems more focused on global politics and social media controversy than on carrying out the fundamental duties of effectively managing London. It's similar to when a pilot talks about various airlines during a flight instead of focusing on making a safe landing. International grandstanding and Twitter feuds will not solve London's problems. They will be resolved through wise spending, strong leadership, and putting the needs of the people first. But this calls for a mayor who understands that his job is to serve the people of London, not to build a global reputation for himself. Here's what it all comes down to. Our mayor wastes taxpayer dollars, employs 47% more people than necessary, makes more money than the Prime Minister, and focuses more on international politics than local problems. At the same time, the city he is meant to oversee is in decline. Basic services are being cut, housing costs are excessive, transport is erratic, and crime has escalated. Khan would have been let go long ago if this had been a company. He would be fired after a few subpar games if this were a football team. Politicians, on the other hand, reward failure with higher salaries and larger budgets. It's an easy question for all Londoners to ask. Do you get a good deal for your money? Do you receive services worth the money when you pay your parking fees, congestion charge, council tax, and all other living expenses in London? Because these statistics suggest that you are paying more for results that are within your budget. This isn't just about Sadiq Khan. Politicians who create empires rather than find solutions to issues are rewarded by this system. It's about a culture where services are cut while the government grows. If you found this content insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on the critical issues shaping our cities and communities. Your support helps us continue to investigate the stories that matter and hold leaders accountable. Join our growing community to stay informed and engaged, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Together, we can demand better governance and ensure that public funds truly benefit the people they are meant to serve.